Amara Nkem sat amidst the opulent silence of her Abuja mansion, a heavy gold chain around her neck feeling like a burden. Despite her immense wealth and success, a profound emptiness echoed in her heart, a secret anguish hidden beneath the gleaming surface of her life. At 31, Amara was one of Nigeria's youngest and most successful heiresses. Her empire, built on multiple thriving businesses alongside her parents' vast fortune, commanded respect across the nation and beyond. She drove the most expensive cars, lived in a mansion that sprawled across acres, and was known for her kindness and generosity, qualities that made her attractive beyond her wealth and striking looks. Yet, when it came to love, her money was a profound curse. The men in her elite social circle were often spoiled, raised in luxury, seeing marriage as a strategic alliance or a status symbol rather than a union of genuine affection. On the other hand, men from humbler backgrounds, though initially charming, inevitably revealed their true interest lay solely in her lavish lifestyle. Amara had experienced both, leaving her with nothing but a deep, weary disappointment. That evening, Amara sat in the grand living room of her family's mansion, the vast space feeling uncomfortably small under the weight of expectation. Her father, Chief Nkem, one of the most powerful businessmen in the country, sat opposite her, watching her with sharp eyes. Beside him, Lady Chika Nkem, a graceful and elegant woman, sat with her arms folded, a picture of quiet authority. "So, Amara," Chief Nkem's deep voice filled the room, "do you have an answer for us?" Amara sighed. She had spent the past few days thinking, grappling with the ultimatum. Now, she was ready. Her parents had given her a stark choice: get engaged in 6 months, or they would donate her multi-million-dollar inheritance to charity. "I have made a decision," Amara said at last, her voice steady. "I will find a husband my own way." Her mother frowned, her brow furrowed with concern. "What do you mean, your own way? We have introduced you to good, respectable men, but you reject them all." Amara shook her head, a familiar frustration evident in her eyes. "Rich men are too spoiled, Mama. They're only interested in my status. And men from lower backgrounds? They only see my money, Papa. How can I truly know who genuinely loves me for who I am?" Her father narrowed his eyes, his gaze piercing. "So what will you do?" "I will leave Abuja for a while," Amara said, her resolve firm. "I will work as a common factory worker in another state. No one will know who I truly am." Her mother gasped, a hand flying to her mouth. "You? A factory worker, Amara? Our daughter?" "Yes." Amara nodded, meeting her mother's incredulous gaze. "If a man loves me when I have nothing, when I am seen as ordinary, then I will know he truly cares for me, not for my fortune." Chief Nkem was silent for a moment, processing her audacious statement. Then, he asked, his voice low, "Where will you go?" "Emeka's father owns a garment factory in another state," Amara explained, referring to her trusted friend. "Emeka has already agreed to help me secure a position there." Lady Nkem still looked utterly shocked, struggling to comprehend the depth of her daughter's plan. "You will leave your luxurious cars, your beautiful house, your comfortable life?" Amara smiled slightly, a glint of defiance in her eyes. "Yes, Mama, and I will not even go as myself. I will wear old clothes, worn-out shoes, and I will walk with crutches." Her father raised an eyebrow, a flicker of surprise in his usually stoic expression. "Crutches?" "Yes," Amara affirmed. "So people will not suspect me. They will simply think I am just a poor, struggling worker." Lady Chika Nkem shook her head vigorously, her disbelief evident. "This is madness, Amara. Utter madness." Chief Nkem watched his daughter for a long moment, a deep sigh escaping him. Her determination was unwavering, a trait he both admired and, at times, found exasperating. "Fine," he finally conceded, his voice resigned. "If this is what you truly want to do, go ahead. But remember, Amara, you only have 6 months. The deadline remains." Amara nodded, her expression solemn. "I understand, Papa. I will not forget." She knew the stakes were incredibly high, but her conviction to find true love was even higher. As Amara quietly left the grand living room, walking down the long, echoing hallway of her family's mansion, she felt a strange and potent mix of excitement and fear stir within her. She was about to embark on an entirely new life, one stripped bare of wealth, comfort, and the power her family name afforded her. Would she truly find the genuine love she desperately sought, a profound connection forged in sincerity rather than superficial status? Or was this audacious plan, this elaborate masquerade she was about to undertake, nothing more than a foolish, impossible dream? Only time would tell. Amara stood outside the bustling gates of the garment factory, the morning sun casting long shadows. Dressed in faded, ill-fitting clothes and worn-out shoes, with crutches pressed under her arms, she watched as groups of workers streamed inside. Some glanced at her with fleeting curiosity, their eyes lingering on her crutches, while others simply ignored her, too focused on their own morning routines. A nervous flutter stirred in Amara's stomach, a sensation alien to her usual composed self. Taking a deep, fortifying breath, she adjusted her grip on the crutches and limped forward, each step a deliberate act. Her plan had truly begun. Inside the factory, a world entirely alien to Amara enveloped her. The air was thick with the distinct smell of processed fabric and the metallic tang of machinery. A symphony of hums, whirs, and clatters vibrated through the vast production floor as machines spun and stitched, and workers moved with practiced efficiency, packaging finished garments. It was an overwhelming, disorienting environment, a stark contrast to the quiet luxury of her Abuja mansion. Following the sparse directions Emeka had given her, Amara navigated the labyrinthine aisles, her senses assaulted by the relentless industrial rhythm. Towards the workers' quarters. She finally reached the workers' quarters, a small, crowded building tucked away behind the main factory floor. Her assigned room was Spartan. A narrow bed, a rickety wooden chair, and a tiny window that offered a sliver of the outside world. There were no plush carpets, no designer furniture, no sprawling space. This was her new reality. Amara carefully placed her meager belongings on the bed, her movements slow and deliberate. As she began to settle in, a profound sense of humility washed over her, mingled with a fierce determination. This humble space was a testament to her sacrifice, and she would not falter. Just as Amara started to adjust, a harsh, piercing voice echoed through the hallway, slicing through the industrial din. "Who brought a cripple to this factory?" The words, dripping with contempt, made Amara flinch. Moments later, Funke Balogun, one of the factory supervisors, stormed into the quarters. Her sharp eyes scanned the room, her face contorted with unconcealed anger. "What kind of joke is this?" she shouted, glaring around. What can a person with crutches possibly do in a factory like this? The other workers watched silently, their expressions a mix of fear and mild curiosity, as Funke marched directly towards the employment office. Seconds later, Funke burst through the door of the factory manager's office. Kunle Adebayo, the 28-year-old manager, looked up from his desk. He was a striking man with a confident presence, his brown eyes studying Funke's agitated entrance with mild curiosity. His calm demeanor was a stark contrast to Funke's furious energy. He leaned back slightly in his chair, a silent invitation for her to speak, his composure unwavering despite her dramatic entry. The air in the office crackled with the unspoken tension between the supervisor's rage and the manager's quiet authority. "Why are you shouting, Funke?" Kunle asked, his voice calm and measured. Funke took a deep, exasperated breath. "Kunle, I don't understand how the employment department hired a crippled person. This is a factory. We need strong workers, people who can move quickly, not someone who can barely walk." Her voice rose with each word, her gestures growing wilder. Kunle listened, his expression thoughtful, tapping his fingers lightly on the polished surface of his desk. He didn't interrupt, allowing Funke to vent her full outrage and prejudice. "Who are you talking about?" Kunle finally asked, his tone neutral. "Her name is Amara. She just resumed today," Funke retorted, her frustration palpable. "I went to the employment department, and they said she was referred by one of the bosses. But I don't care who sent her. She cannot work here. You need to fire her immediately, before she becomes a burden to the team." Funke's eyes narrowed, her resolve firm. She expected Kunle to agree, to see the sheer impracticality of Amara's presence. Kunle, however, remained silent for a moment, his thoughtful gaze fixed on some unseen point in the room. Kunle tapped his fingers on the table a few more times, then let out a soft sigh. Bring her to my office, Funke. Funke's lips curved into a smug smirk. Good decision, Kunle. You will see that she's useless. Believing she had won, Funke turned sharply and marched out, a triumphant glint in her eyes, ready to drag Amara to what she presumed would be her swift end. Kunle watched her go, his expression unreadable, already anticipating the confrontation that was about to unfold. Amara's first real test was about to begin. Amara sat in the crowded corridors, her gaze fixed on the worn floorboards. She had barely begun to process the harsh reality of her new life when heavy footsteps echoed down the hallway, growing louder with each beat of her anxious heart. The door to her small room burst open, and in walked Funke Balogun, her face a mask of furious frustration. "Get up!" Funke snapped, her voice sharp and devoid of patience. "The manager wants to see you." Amara didn't respond, her stomach clenching. She simply gripped her crutches, pushed herself slowly to her feet, wincing subtly as her weight shifted onto her disguised leg. She followed Funke, the supervisor's impatient glare burning into her back. The moment of truth had arrived. The journey through the factory was a blur of deafening machine noise and the chatter of busy workers. Amara focused on keeping her posture straight, moving with as much dignity as her crutches would allow. As they entered the manager's office, Funke stepped aside, allowing Amara to limp in first. Kunle Adebayo, the factory manager, looked up from the paperwork spread across his desk. His calm demeanor was a stark contrast to Funke's simmering fury, a quiet pool of observation in a room crackling with tension. He studied Amara with an unreadable expression, his brown eyes holding neither pity nor judgment, but a mild, focused curiosity. "Sit down," Kunle said, his voice smooth and even. Amara obeyed, carefully lowering herself into the chair across from him, her crutches leaning against her side. Funke stood behind her, arms crossed, a hostile glare fixed on Amara. Kunle's gaze was steady, not filled with the harshness Amara had expected, but a neutral assessment. "You're Amara?" he asked, his tone level. "Yes, ma'am," she replied, her voice steady, though she felt a tremor beneath the surface from the long walk and the apprehension. Before Kunle could say more, Funke couldn't hold her temper. "Sir, this woman can barely walk. She's not fit for factory work. What's the point of having someone like her around?" Amara looked up, meeting Kunle's gaze, her heart racing, but her resolve firm. "I understand your concern, sir," Amara began, her voice gaining strength. "But I can work. I may not walk like others, but I can still contribute." Kunle's eyes softened ever so slightly, a fleeting flicker of something akin to understanding. But Funke wasn't finished. "Contribute what? The machines require people who are fast, who are strong. She's only a distraction." Amara forced herself to stay calm, refusing to let their words break her. She had come too far for that. She would not back down now. "I may have crutches, sir, but my mind is sharp. I've worked before," Amara countered, her voice now filled with a quiet conviction. "I may not do the heavy lifting, but I can help in other ways." Kunle leaned forward, his expression still unreadable, but clearly listening. Funke snorted, clearly not convinced. "And what ways are those?" she scoffed. Amara took a deep breath. "I can manage inventory, assist with packaging, organize orders. I can supervise smaller tasks that require attention to detail. There's much more to running a factory than just moving heavy sacks of fabric." Kunle was silent for a long moment, considering her words. Funke shot Amara a disapproving look, but Kunle remained focused. "You're sure?" Kunle asked, his voice now calm and measured. "You don't mind doing the smaller tasks?" "I don't mind at all, sir," Amara replied, her eyes steady. "If it helps the factory run smoothly, I'm willing to do anything." There was another pause, then Kunle finally stood. "All right. You'll start by organizing the orders and assisting with packaging. We'll see how you handle it." Funke couldn't hide her disbelief. "Sir, this is ridiculous!" Kunle looked at Funke with a raised eyebrow. "You are to work with her, Funke. If she fails, we will reconsider. But for now, she stays." Funke's lips pressed together in anger, but she said nothing. Amara looked at Kunle, a wave of relief washing over her. "Thank you for giving me the chance, sir." Kunle didn't smile, but there was a small glimmer of approval in his eyes. "Don't thank me yet. Prove you can do the work." Funke gave Amara one final, venomous glare before storming out of the office, slamming the door behind her. Amara felt a strange mix of triumph and apprehension. She had won this round, but the real battle was just beginning. Kunle's challenge resonated in her ears. "Prove you can do the work." As Amara limped out of Kunle's office, the weight of the immense challenge ahead settled on her shoulders. She wasn't sure how long she could keep up the charade, or how much more prejudice she would face, but she had to. Her goal was clear, sharper than ever, to prove to them all that she was more than just her crutches, more than her perceived limitations. She would prove her worth. She would find true love, and she would do it on her own terms. As the days melted into weeks, Amara settled into her new, demanding life at the garment factory. Her duties were mostly organizational, arranging orders, meticulously assisting with packaging, and diligently tracking inventory. Yet, she carried out each task with an unexpected blend of care and precision. Her crutches, which many had expected to be a significant hindrance, did not slow her down as much as predicted. In fact, Amara often found innovative ways to move with surprising efficiency, almost hopping from one workstation to the next, adapting her movements with a quiet resilience. Kunle, the factory manager, had kept a watchful eye on her. He observed her movements, her unwavering focus, and the quiet determination with which she approached every chore. Soon enough, he was satisfied with her performance, a faint nod of approval often seen when he passed by. He would even stop occasionally to check in, his gaze thoughtful as Amara handled tasks with a resolve that impressed him. It seemed Amara was slowly but surely earning his respect. But for Funke, Amara's success was a bitter pill. From the moment Kunle had verified Amara's employment, Funke's anger had only festered. Every time she caught sight of Amara working, moving with that surprising agility, a burning hatred flared in her chest. How could someone like her, someone Funke deemed weak and useless, be allowed to not just stay, but thrive in the factory? Funke couldn't bear to let her succeed. She decided then and there to make Amara's life a living hell. One morning, Funke approached Amara, a wicked smile twisting her lips. "Amara," she said, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness, "I have a special task for you today." Amara glanced up, an uneasy feeling stirring in her gut. She sensed the malice beneath the saccharine tone. "What's the task?" she asked, her voice steady despite her apprehension. Funke then handed her a heavy box overflowing with raw garments. A box much larger and heavier than anything Amara had been asked to carry before. "I want you to move this to the storage room. It's your job today." Amara's heart sank, a cold knot forming in her stomach. This wasn't a task she could easily manage with crutches, but she refused to show any sign of weakness. She gripped the box carefully, doing her best to balance its immense weight. Funke watched her struggle, a smug, triumphant look plastered on her face. "Let's see how you handle that, cripple," she muttered under her breath, loud enough for Amara to hear. Despite the daunting challenge, Amara carefully carried the heavy box toward the storage room. Her arms shook with the effort, and beads of sweat trickled down her forehead, but she tightened her resolve and didn't let it drop. The workers in the room watched, some whispering amongst themselves, others snickering at her obvious struggle. When Amara finally, painstakingly placed the box down, Funke's smirk remained. "Not bad," she conceded, her voice cold and devoid of genuine praise. "But I wonder how you'll do when I give you even more difficult tasks." Amara stood silently, her heart still racing. She had passed this test, but she knew, with chilling certainty, it wouldn't be the last. Funke was true to her word. Over the next few weeks, she subjected Amara to a relentless gauntlet of tasks, each one seemingly designed to be impossible for someone using crutches. Sometimes, she would demand Amara move large, heavy bags of fabric, far too cumbersome for her to lift. Other times, she would instruct her to clean parts of the factory that were almost unreachable, high up on precarious shelves. Each time, Funke watched closely, her sharp eyes narrowed, waiting with bated breath for Amara to finally fail, to crumble under the pressure. She wanted to see Amara broken. But Amara didn't fail. She tapped into a wellspring of ingenuity and stubborn resilience, figuring out creative ways to manage each task. When the fabric bags were too heavy, she would politely ask nearby workers for help loading them onto a cart. Then she would wheel them to their designated spots herself. When Funke ordered her to clean high shelves, Amara would find a sturdy ladder and carefully, deliberately climb it with her crutches, never once asking for assistance. She would not give Funke the satisfaction of seeing her defeated. And the more Amara succeeded, the angrier Funke became. Her hatred for Amara grew, festering like an untreated wound. Soon, Funke wasn't the only one making things difficult. Some of the other workers, those who were friends with Funke, began to bully Amara as well. They would subtly shove her aside when she tried to do her work, whispering cruel names like lame and weakling under their breath. They'd laugh openly as she struggled to carry out tasks they thought were beyond her. "Who does she think she is?" one worker whispered to another, just loud enough for Amara to hear. "She's not even supposed to be here." Amara heard the whispers, the cruel laughter, but she refused to let it break her. She was used to judgment, to mockery. For years, she had hidden who she truly was, hiding behind her wealth, pretending to be someone she wasn't. Now, in this factory, she wasn't hiding anymore. She was Amara Nkem, and she would prove that her worth wasn't tied to her crutches, her wealth, or her appearance. It was tied to her unwavering determination. One afternoon, as Amara worked diligently on the factory floor, trying to organize a newly arrived pile of raw garments, she felt a sudden, hard shove from behind. She gasped, losing her balance, her crutches clattering against the concrete floor. For a terrifying second, she thought she would fall, but she managed to catch herself, bracing with her arms, the crutches digging painfully into her sides. Laughter, cruel and sharp, erupted from a group of workers standing nearby. "Look at the cripple trying to work," one of them sneered, a wicked smile twisting his lips. "She's so slow. How did she even get hired?" another jeered, his voice dripping with malice. "Maybe she thinks she's special," a third added, his words cutting deep. "A rich kid pretending to be poor." Amara clenched her jaw, her heart pounding with a mix of humiliation and a familiar, burning anger. She fought to keep her composure, forcing herself to focus on the task. But the taunts followed her, sharp as daggers. "Careful, Amara," one worker called out mockingly. "Don't break your crutches." Just then, Kunle Adebayo, the factory manager, walked into the area. He had been passing by, his attention caught by the sudden burst of cruel laughter and the biting insults that followed. His calm demeanor vanished the moment his eyes landed on the scene unfolding before him. He watched, unnoticed by the taunting group, as Funke Balagoon and a few other employees stood in a cluster, their faces alight with malicious amusement, fixated on Amara as she struggled to regain her balance and continue her work. Kunle's jaw tightened, his eyes narrowing to slits. A cold, hard anger began to simmer within him, a protective instinct he hadn't known he possessed for this quiet, determined worker. He had observed Amara's resilience, but this open, public humiliation was a line crossed. Without a word, Kunle marched purposefully over to the group, his footsteps echoing sharply through the factory floor. His presence was sudden and imposing, his anger radiating visibly. Funke and the others froze mid-laugh, their faces turning pale as they saw the manager's furious expression. "Funke!" Kunle's voice cut through the air, sharp and laced with an authority they rarely heard. "What do you think you're doing?" Funke and her friends visibly flinched, their smug smiles dissolving into fear. "This is not how we treat anyone in this factory," Kunle continued, his voice now a cold, dangerous fury. "Amara is doing her job, just like everyone else. If you have any problem with that, you can leave." The workers were silent, utterly shocked by his sudden, intense anger. They had never seen Kunle so upset, his protective stance undeniable. Kunle turned his attention away from the stunned group, his gaze softening as he looked at Amara. "Amara, come with me," he said, his voice now calm but firm. He led her away from the cruel, staring eyes of the other workers towards his office. Once inside, he closed the door behind them, the heavy click sealing them off from the factory's noise and judgment. "I'm sorry, Amara," he said quietly. his voice filled with a sincerity that surprised her. "I didn't know this was happening. No one should treat you like that." Amara, still gripping her crutches tightly, looked down at the floor, unable to meet his gaze. She didn't say anything, but her heart felt heavy, burdened by the words and actions of the workers that had been eating at her for days, though she had never shown it. Kunle watched her for a moment, noticing how wounded and small she suddenly seemed. Something inside him stirred, a profound compassion for this woman who had been silently enduring so much. Kunle cleared his throat, his voice gentle but firm. "If anyone bullies you again, Amara, I want you to come to me. I'll handle it. You should not have to deal with this alone." Amara looked up, surprised by the unexpected depth of his concern. She hadn't anticipated such kindness. Kunle continued, his gaze steady and reassuring. "You are doing well here. Don't let anyone make you feel small. You have my full support." A wave of gratitude washed over Amara. She had not expected this, especially after everything that had happened. For the first time since she arrived at the factory, a sense of warmth spread through her. A fragile belief that someone truly cared, that she wasn't entirely on her own in this challenging world she had chosen. Kunle's eyes softened as he looked at her, seeing past the worn clothes and the crutches to the quiet strength within. "I see your potential, Amara. You're strong, not just physically, but in spirit. Don't let the others bring you down." For the first time since she arrived at the factory, Amara felt a genuine sense of hope bloom within her. Kunle's words gave her strength, and she felt a little less alone, a heavy weight lifting from her shoulders. As Kunle turned to his desk, Amara remained in her seat, reflecting on his unexpected kindness. It was clear he had seen her pain, and for the first time, she believed someone truly cared. "I'll do my best," Amara said, her voice steady now, filled with renewed determination. "I won't let them stop me." Kunle smiled slightly, a soft but sincere expression. "I know you won't." Amara left his office feeling a powerful, renewed sense of hope. She was determined to keep pushing forward, not just for the approval of others, but for herself. And now, she had someone in her corner who believed in her. From that day forward, Kunle Adebayo was much kinder to Amara. He would often stop by her workstation, no longer just observing, but checking on her progress and offering encouraging words. He could see how hard she worked, her quiet strength shining through every task, and he was deeply impressed by her dedication and determination. Amara never complained, no matter how difficult the chore. She approached everything with a quiet resilience, always giving her best. Kunle couldn't help but admire her. He saw something in her that others didn't. A deep well of resilience, a truly kind heart, and an unwavering work ethic. He felt a burgeoning sense of pride in her accomplishments, and was genuinely happy to see her thrive despite the factory's harsh environment. One evening after a particularly long day of overseeing the factory's operations, Kunle sat alone in his office, lost in thought. He owned a beautiful, spacious duplex, but it felt too large for just one person. He had always been consumed by his work, and though he loved his home, he realized it sorely needed someone to take care of it while he was away. His previous caretaker had recently left for another job, and he hadn't yet found a suitable replacement. The house required someone trustworthy who could clean, cook, and keep things in perfect order during his demanding schedule. Kunle pondered his dilemma for a long time. Then, like a sudden burst of sunlight, an idea came to him. He thought of Amara, how hard she worked, how respectful she was, and how she never asked for anything in return. He smiled to himself. She was kind and responsible. She would be a perfect fit for the job. The very next day, Kunle called Amara into his office. She limped in, her crutches thudding softly on the polished floor, a flicker of apprehension in her eyes. Kunle looked at her, a warm, genuine smile gracing his lips. "Amara?" he began, his voice gentle. "I've been thinking about something, and I want to ask you if you'd be interested in a new opportunity." Amara looked up, curious but uncertain. "What kind of opportunity, sir?" she asked, her voice steady. Kunle hesitated for a moment, gathering his thoughts before speaking again. "I live in a duplex, but it's too much for me to manage alone. I've been looking for someone to take care of the house. Clean, cook, make sure everything is in order while I'm away for work. It's an easy job, and I'd pay you more than what you're earning here at the factory." Amara's eyes widened in genuine surprise, her breath catching slightly. "You mean work for you as a caretaker?" Amara asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Yes," Kunle confirmed, his smile unwavering. "You're a hard worker, Amara, and I trust you. I think you'd be perfect for the job." Amara thought about it for a moment, a whirlwind of emotions swirling within her. The factory had been relentlessly difficult, and the constant bullying had made each day a grueling test of endurance. But this offer, it was something new, something that could change everything. She would be away from the cruel treatment, in a respectful environment, doing something that truly suited her quiet diligence. She looked up at Kunle, a grateful smile spreading across her face. "I would be glad to work for you, sir," she said, her voice filled with a profound sense of relief. "I promise I'll do my best." A wave of relief and satisfaction washed over Kunle. He knew he had made the right choice. Amara whispered to herself, a quiet conviction. This might be him. She felt in her heart that Kunle was exactly the kind of kind-hearted man she had been searching for. "Thank you, sir," Amara said aloud, her voice brimming with gratitude. "I won't let you down." Kunle smiled. "I know you won't." From that day forward, Amara's life began to change. She moved into Kunle's duplex, away from the factory and the constant, draining bullying. A heavy weight felt lifted from her shoulders. Working for Kunle was much easier, the tasks imbued with a sense of kindness and respect. And as Kunle watched her work, he knew he had made the right choice. He was happy to see Amara finally getting the chance she deserved. 2 months had passed since Amara had started working at the factory, though much had changed since then. Her billionaire parents, Chief Obi and Lady Amara Nkem, were eager to know how her unconventional plan was progressing. They had given her 6 months to get engaged, and they were anxiously waiting to hear from her. Mara's parents had been calling her regularly, their voices tinged with worry, asking about her progress. They were concerned she hadn't found anyone to marry yet, and they had no idea what she was truly doing away from home. "Amara, how are things going with your plan?" her mother asked during one of their calls, a hint of impatience in her elegant tone. "Have you met anyone special?" "You need to hurry. We can't wait forever." Amara was careful with her words, keeping her new circumstances vague. "I'm doing well, Mama. Just focusing on my work for now." Her father, always more direct, pressed, "Have you made any progress with your plan? We're counting on you to get engaged. Time is running out." Mara didn't want to tell them that she had moved to a new, even more humble job, so she kept her replies non-committal. "I'm just taking things one day at a time, Papa." Her parents weren't entirely satisfied, but they didn't press her further. They trusted her to handle things, but their anxiety for results was palpable. Meanwhile, Amara's friend, Kunle Adebayo, had also noticed something strange. He hadn't heard from Amara for weeks, and when he tried calling her, there was no answer. It was highly unusual for Amara to be so quiet, so Kunle grew curious. He decided to visit Amara's old workplace to find out what was going on. He arrived at the garment factory and asked around, but no one seemed to know where Amara had gone. "Have you seen Amara lately?" Kunle asked one of the workers. The worker shrugged. "She left a while ago. She's not working here anymore." Kunle was thoroughly confused. He had no idea where Amara had disappeared to. He decided to call her again. This time, Amara picked up. "Hello, Amara. Where have you been? You're not at the factory anymore. What's going on?" Kunle asked, sounding genuinely worried. Amara paused for a moment before replying, a touch of relief in her voice that she could finally share her secret with a trusted friend. "I've moved on, Kunle. I'm not working at the factory anymore." Kunle was shocked. "Wait, what? But why? You were doing well there. What happened?" Amara smiled a little, feeling a bit of the burden lift. "I've taken a different job. I'm working as a caretaker for someone I trust." Kunle was even more surprised. "A caretaker? Who's that?" Amara hesitated but then decided to tell her friend. "It's Kunle, the manager at the factory. He offered me the job to take care of his house. It's much better than the factory work, and it's away from all the bullying." Kunle was silent for a moment, processing the news. Wow, Amara, that's a big change, but I'm glad you found something better. You deserve it. Amara nodded. Thanks, Emeka. It's been a lot better. I feel more at peace now. Emeka could hear the relief in Amara's voice. I'm happy for you, Amara. Just make sure you're still working on your plan. Your parents are waiting to hear from you. Amara sighed. I know, I haven't forgotten. I'm just focusing on myself right now. I'll handle everything soon. Emeka understood. All right, just don't leave me in the dark, okay? Let me know if you need anything. I will, Emeka. Thanks for checking in. It had been 2 weeks since Amara had moved into Kunle's house, and she had fully settled into her new role as a caretaker, and she proved she was more than capable of handling the job. Every day she made sure the house was impeccably clean, the meals were perfectly prepared, and everything was in impeccable order. Kunle was amazed by how well she did everything. One evening, Kunle came home after a long day of work, and the house smelled of freshly cooked food. Amara had prepared dinner, a simple but delicious meal of rice and stew with vegetables. He walked into the kitchen, his eyes wide with genuine surprise. Amara, this smells amazing, he exclaimed. Amara smiled. I'm glad you like it, sir. I tried my best. Kunle took a seat at the table, genuinely impressed. I can't believe you cook this well. You're not just a caretaker, you're a great chef too. Amara laughed softly. It's nothing really. I enjoy cooking. I've learned a lot over the years. Kunle picked up his spoon and took a bite. This is really good. I could never cook like this. I'm so glad I made the decision to hire you. As he ate, Kunle watched Amara move around the kitchen, cleaning up and organizing everything with quiet efficiency. He had never seen someone so calm and methodical. She did everything with such care, and he found himself admiring that deeply. But over time, something subtle yet profound began to change inside of Kunle. What was beginning to change inside of Kunle? Find out in part 2 of this wonderful story.